If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening.
I tweeted this on the 26th. It's clear Malika Andrews needs to apologize to Stephen A. Smith, Kendrick Perkins, and Joe Mazzulla. The low level of contempt for black men she's displayed over the past week is unacceptable and highly unprofessional. Now's not the time to start pushing some type of agenda to show bias against black men, because we know where that all leads. It seems that Malika Andrews is completely taken off her mask in light of the Ime Udoka cheating scandal, when Boston Celtics head coach suspended for a year for cheating. But she's got to take her shots in there.
People saying we don't know if he did it intentionally. He fouled him on purpose, and he did it with intentions. Okay, let's get that out the way. Here's the thing that we have to. Looking at the play,
you can't look at a person. Yeah, but you're making an assumption.
Yes, you can.
You can't look at a person and know what their intent was. It was a dangerous play, regardless. But you can't. Okay, I didn't realize we had a bunch of mind readers on the panel. Please continue.
So here you have her arguing with experts, 3 professional athletes. Somehow she is the one who disagrees, and she's calling them, oh, you guys think you're mind readers. If they're telling you something, they're telling you what they saw in intent in watching the gameplay footage, then yes, you should believe them. This is what I'm saying. It's a hubris. I don't want any 27-year-old talking to me like that. I don't care what you think you are, especially if I'm a pro athlete. You don't tell me nothing about this game that I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into. But anyway, she had an interesting interaction with Stephen A. Smith, which I'm telling you, wouldn't have gone this way if it was me. Stephen A. is a better man than me. And I've had my issues with Stephen A. Smith's takes in the past. But on this was righteous. This was what he was supposed to do.
If I could first start with this, Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. What became apparent to me in this press conference is that we do not have all of the information here. And it was frustrating to me that the Celtics declined to elaborate or to give more specifics about what exactly the rule breaking was that led us to this point. So that, I just want to get that out of the way first. But to answer your question, Molly, I think what stood out to me, I think what stood out to me is that Brad Stevens, he was upset. That's what stood out to me about what he termed rampant Twitter BS is the word that he used, that women were unfairly dragged into this within the Celtics organization. You could see that Brad Stevens was visibly upset about this. And I also found that to be gross and unnecessary, that folks were.
Okay, so that's her main issue with what happened. All about, what happened to women. Okay, so she claims to have a valiant purpose for this, but it seems consistently she's disrespectful to black men and she's pushing her own agenda.
Were bringing in the names and the images of women that is just not a fact. That was purely speculation. And so to me,
what does Twitter have to do with any of this?
But the Celtics as an organization could have done more, and short of doing more ahead of this yesterday, they could have owned that responsibility in this press conference. I understand that there were legal parameters that they had to operate within for everybody involved, and I appreciate the fact that they brought in outside counsel and did a thorough organization. And I think that that is something that was clearly necessary in this situation. But the fact that it was able to go on all day, the fact that we are sitting here debating whether somebody else should have been suspended or not, we are not here, Stephen A., to further blame women. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear.
So basically, she's thrown Stephen A. Smith, a man old enough to be her father, more experience in his pinky she has seen in her 27 years. She's ready to throw him under the bus and claim that he's actually promoting women being harmed or women being suspects in the Ime Udoka scandal. That is unheard of. Like, what happened to seniority? You know, I think what gets lost on these younger generations is that they don't understand that there was a time where you were supposed to respect your elders. Now, I know you all are peers and you all work together, but that still remains true. I mean, I don't know what their personal relationship is, but obviously it's not on the best terms, because I wouldn't expect this from my worst enemy. In great Stephen A. fashion, he makes some corrections.
Very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. I'm not blaming anybody but Ime Udoka. He deserves, the fact of the matter is, I've said he deserved to be fired if they were going to fire him. If you're not going to fire him, then don't fire him. My issue is all of this being publicized. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Ridiculous. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've already said he deserves to be fired, or he deserves to be there and handle it internally and privately. If you're not going to handle it privately, if you're going to publicize it in that fashion, then obviously it provokes everybody wanting to know, okay, well, who are the parties involved? When you have Amina Smith in Boston and other women pointing out the fact that there were women who were wrongly implicated in all of this, it's a disservice to them. I didn't come out with the report about a consensual relationship. I didn't come out with the report ahead of time leaking that they were going to suspend him for the year. They did that. And my point is, considering how pervasive this kind of stuff has existed in professional sports for many years, my whole point is that, make sure that you handle it in the same fashion it has always been handled. You could have fired him, and then we could have speculated till the cows come home, but he's gone. But to keep him there, keep him employed, but in the same breath, suspend him for a year, then also that year is indefinite. That is the issue that I have. Nobody's trying to protect Ime Udoka, and certainly nobody is trying to protect, is to excoriate the women involved or anything like that. I'm talking about how things of this matter.
And that's a very important point. She was trying to imply that he was trying to, in his words, excoriate the women. Stephen A. Smith has already had issues with women in the past, so he's sensitive about this because what she's implying actually threatens his job.
This matter are usually handled from an HR perspective, from an organizational perspective. That is not consistent with what we have seen throughout the years. That is the only point that I was trying to make. I'm not trying to attack anybody, and if anybody deserves to be attacked, it's Ime Udoka for putting himself in this position. I've made that very clear. I'm just talking about you got owners and everybody else. They know the kind of stuff that's going on. You didn't say anything about anybody else. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about them. They didn't say anything about everybody else all the other times this stuff has happened. But now when it comes to him, it's all over the place. That is my issue. That is my only issue.
She had no problem putting Stephen A. Smith's job on the line. He made his words very carefully measured. But I think he got his point across. He had to check her, but at the same time, stay on the side of, so he doesn't get canceled for talking harshly to a woman. This is a pattern. This is a pattern we're seeing from Malika. You got a lot to learn, Malika. You got a lot to learn, because continuing in this rate, I mean, you're not going to last long. You're literally covering the men that you are showing so much disdain for. And here's the thing, she does the same thing to Kendrick Perkins.
Tell you another thing I didn't like about my good friend Wick Grossbeck and Brad Stevens in this press conference when they asked, is anybody else going to be punished? And they said no. And my whole thing is this, right? These are some of the facts that have been out. These are some facts that I know that, you know, this relationship, one of these relationships that was had with Ime Udoka and one of these women, it was consensual, meaning that this woman actually played a part in it too. So my thing is, yes, Ime Udoka was wrong. We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook?
Well,
that's the problem that I have right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
I think that we need to circle back to what Shanae said, is that there was an investigation that was conducted by an independent law firm here, and I think that transparency is what will rule the day here. And so without having all of the information, it is unfair and irresponsible of us to go and to speculate on that, because what we have to...
Well, I'm not speculating. Sure. I have the information. I'm not speculating.
But what we have to go with here...
He's got an internal connection. He's actually played for the team. So what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. You're going to argue him down.
Is the fact that an independent law firm came in, did this investigation, and the facts that they were presented, they came to the conclusion...
It's a superiority complex.
...that Ime Udoka violated a policy that warranted a 1-year suspension, and I share your frustration with the lack of transparency while understanding that there is some things that they need to, from a legal perspective, keep private. But knowing all of that, understanding all of that, we have to come to the conclusion that whatever rule, the conduct that was broken on one side, it is not the same on the other side. I thank you for your perspective.
And she cut him off right there. She basically levied an accusation at him of trying to get the name of these women out there and didn't give him a chance to respond, which is what she wanted to do to Stephen A. Smith, but couldn't do because she levied another accusation at Stephen A. Smith that was unwarranted, unfounded, and disrespectful. But it was his show. He could control it, and he controlled that narrative as he had to. His job was on the line. You know, it's something, you know, to have a 25-year career and then to just have somebody come through and play with it in that type of way. Play with the fact that they could get you fired, get you in at least in some type of disciplinary action. And this one takes the cake. The replacement for Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla. Well, let's just let Malika say it for herself.
You reported that Joe Mazzulla will be the interim head coach here. You can see his resume on your screen. He's been a Celtics assistant coach the last 3 seasons after spending the previous 3 seasons at Fairmont State. And he played for West Virginia between 2006 and 2011, and now could become the NBA's youngest head coach at 34 years old.
What's the problem with that, Malika?
And we'd be remiss not to also mention that Mazzulla was arrested twice at West Virginia, once in 2008 for underage drinking and aggravated assault. He pled guilty, paid a fine, and then again in 2009 for domestic battery after an incident at Morgantown Bar. The domestic battery case never went to trial. It was settled in August of 2009. He paid a $100 fine and court costs, plus had to do 40 hours of community service. Now, that was 13 years ago. He settled and paid both fines. So, Woj, why are the Celtics choosing him as their next head coach?
So what's the problem? What's the problem? Why do you feel the need to bring this up right now? You know what I'm saying? This is deep-seated right here. This is deep-seated. They're trying to find a replacement. They're scrambling to find a replacement. And the first thing you can bring up is his criminal history from 13 years ago. Some of the charges stemming from when he was in college. You see what I'm saying? That means you're searching for anything. That means you're looking for a reason for him to be under scrutiny. This is somebody who has done nothing but consistently now kicked black men's back in the past week. With allies like that, we don't need enemies. In a position where she talks about black men a majority of the time in the sports desk, you know, it's got to be said that somebody who holds these type of views and can't keep them to themselves, that has to spout off at the mouth, that's a problem. Black men will not tolerate this anymore. People who blatantly disrespect, who put people's jobs on the line unnecessarily. Seems like she's been indoctrinated by the YouTube sisterhood. There are several people on YouTube that speak in the same terms as she does. I'm not going to belabor the point. Anyway, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification for all uploads. This is FAUCETTE Media.